Hello, BookTube. All right, we are at my 12.4, not my 13.4, but my 12.4 Q&A. And we are at, I believe this is video number 2. And we are up to Foothill Element. Hi, Steve. Thank you for sharing your insights into the world of books. I couldn't do without you. Oh, thank you. One of my favorite books is The Great War in Modern Memory by Paul Fussell. Yeah, it's very, very good. How do you feel about this approach to history, where arts and literature are woven into the narrative? Can you recommend some other history books written in a similar way? I love this approach to history. I love Fussell's book. I think it's great. I finally found at the Brattle, I think last year, the big illustrated edition of The Great War in Modern Memory, because The Great War in Modern Memory is all about visual representation, and the dinky little photographic insert in the paperback just doesn't do justice to that. It needs a big illustrated edition. I finally found that at the Brattle. And there have been other books that did it. There was one just a couple of years ago. Oh, no, more than a couple of years ago. So before the pandemic. That did the same thing with World War II, or tried to. The problem is that it isn't just that approach that Fussell does. He's also a great writer. And not every writer who wants to try this thing can bring that element to the table. If I remember what that World War II thing is, I can mention it. I can jot it down in the description. But there have been, Fussell's approach was so successful that lots of other people did it. The problem is that the approach is uniquely pertinent with World War One. It was World War One that really amped up the kind of intermix between the news and the plastic arts that Fussell writes about in that book. It was World War One that really amped that up. It was the 20th century. That was a purely 20th century addition to warfare. So it became really popular to do. But not every writer can do it as well. Very noisy background. I mentioned that in the first of these Q&A videos. Sorry about that. Nothing I can do about it. That window is open. But even if the window were closed, it's been a very noisy day here. It's a weekend. It's a bright and sunny day. That's, I guess, the perfect opportunity, if you're in Rosendale or wherever, to think, well, Junior's got this eczema on his skin. I'm wondering if I were to fire up the barbecue, could I burn that off his arm? I guess a dozen people an hour are asking that question and getting the inevitable answer. Anyway, Chris Bianchi says, hi, Steve. I know you love the Aubrey Maturin series by Patrick O'Brien. I was curious about your thoughts on the Master and Commander movie, Far Side of the World, by Peter Weir. It's great. Just fantastic. What a movie. Oh, my God. From start to finish. Literally from start to finish. The literal final scene, final image even, not just final scene, but the literal final image. There isn't a single thing wasted in there. It's just beautifully done. Just beautifully done. Do you like Leonora Carrington's writing? I remember liking it. I haven't read it in a long time. Do you have a favorite John Fowles novel? Wish I did. I know he has fans, but no. In Boston, would you say the two worst urban project decisions were building the elevated Central Artery, the John F. Fitzgerald Expressway, and the demolition of Scully Square? Yeah, I'd say those two are probably right up at the top. Scully Square taking a personal score for me, since not only did I hate the idea that the state could just seize this land. It was a vibrant, living community. It was a little on the seedy side, a little on the rough side. But, how's your neighborhood? If that were the yardstick, who would escape whipping? And it was just seized and demolished. All those buildings, all those businesses, all those houses, all those tenements, all those apartments, all those memories gone and not replaced with anything. They were replaced with the gigantic open concrete wasteland of City Hall Plaza. So yeah, I would rank those right up top. Joseph Coverley says, hi, Steve. Been here since the 1,000 sub mark. Oh my God, you've suffered a lot, haven't you? I had a question regarding your thoughts on Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, and also her gender studies thoughts, like the Bechdel test for movies. And then Joseph outlines what the Bechdel test is, for those of you fortunate enough not to know about it, where these 3 points have to be true for a movie to pass. Number 1, that at least 2 women are featured. Number 2, that these women talk to each other. And number 3, that they discuss something other than the men in the movie. I would never purposely start a Steve rant. Oh, I think you would. And, of course, I hate the Bechdel test, which I have heard, I have not looked into this, but I have heard that it was not originally proposed seriously, and that even its own creator was caught off guard by how it became a cultural litmus test. I don't know whether that's true or not, but you can guess why I don't like the test. right? It's a test for whether or not a movie passes. Do you pass the Bechdel test? Okay, well, that's one example. What about uh, the cinematography test? Is your cinematography any good? That's another test, right? That a movie can either pass or fail. The Bechdel test can be, a movie can completely fail the Bechdel test and still be great, which I'm willing to grant that Alison Bechdel herself probably acknowledged that when she thought up this thing. But the people who have used this as a cudgel since then certainly do not think that. They think if your movie fails the Bechdel test, it is therefore, perforce, a bad movie. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And also, just a little fascistic. Anyway, that's as much of a rant as you get, Buster. Jamie McCary says, "Hey, hi Steve, quick question. I have never, well, I might point out, you say quick question, and it's 4 lines long. But I have never really read a lot of short stories, as I prefer the immersive experience of reading novels, but I would like your recommendation of an absolutely fantastic short story writer that I can incorporate into my reading. Thanks again for your videos. They are an absolute delight, and please keep them coming." Well, I'm going to keep them coming. I don't know why they're so delightful, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm glad you are. You might allow me a little bit of partisanship here. You like the immersive experience of reading novels, and of course that is the main strength of reading a novel, is that it's not a short story. The main strength of it is that it's a whole world that surrounds you and that you live in for a while. If you like that experience in novels, I would suggest that in trying to find short story writers that you like, you should go for short story writers who do that. You should go for short story writers who create an immersive world. Not all of them do, and not all of them want to. But for instance, the great William Trevor. There's a gigantic collection of his short stories. Pick anyone at random at any length, and you will be drawn into a world. I would also suggest Frank O'Connor for this. But William Trevor's big book, his collected stories, an enormous volume from Penguin, is likely to be at your library, and it's likely to be in your bookstores. And I see it all the time. So if you don't see it, let me know, and I'll find a copy and send it to you. I'd be willing to bet it would do the trick. Not every short story writer does that sort of thing. Short stories can do both those things. They can either be immersive worlds, or they can be just a shard of glass to the face. And they can be brilliant doing either one. You just have to... I would suggest that if you love the immersive experience of reading novels, and plenty of people have told me this, that they do, I would suggest that you go intentionally to short story writers who mimic that feeling. And then from there, once you've got your sea legs under you, try the shard of glass to the face short story writers. You might end up liking them, even though they don't do that. And when it comes to immersive world building short stories, of course, you'll notice I am not recommending Alice Munro, who's famous for that and who is my bête noire, one of my many bête noirs. so I'm not recommending her. You can, of course, try her. I would suggest William Trevor instead. Always go to the Irish. They'll never let you down. Olive McQueen says, "Hi, Steve and Frida. Congratulations again on your subscriber number. What do you think of Martin Amis and his works?" I've never really liked him. I thought that his latest book, the one that... It's a long memoir about his family and about his friendship with Christopher Hitchens. It is billed as a novel. There's nothing in it that it's... The minor variations on the absolute documented truth are so minor that it's autofiction. But one way or another, Inside Story, I think, was the boring title that it has. It's the only thing, the thing by him that is allegedly fiction that I've liked more than any of his other fiction. His nonfiction, terrific. I strongly recommend that. What are your views on the works of Hilary Mantel? I thought she was passable so-so. I read her books and thought, this is passable so-so. I would read another one of these if I found it used in a used bookstore. I would read another one of these. And then Wolf Hall came along. And it is yards and yards better than anything else that she ever wrote. It's like someone else wrote it. It's someone else did. She wrote it rather than her older self. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain the change from that book to the book that came immediately before it. But that came along and changed my estimation of her as a writer. Now, what she does next, my heart will be in my throat. But I have the Thomas Cromwell trilogy, and they're all great. All 3 of those books are great. And finally, what are your views on the works of John Banville and Sebastian Barry? I like them both. I don't love either one of them. I like them both. Except if, Sebastian Barry has done one thing that I thought was outstanding, In both cases, Banville and Barry, I have my reaction is largely what it was to that pre-Wolf Hall Hilary Mantel. And once upon a time, I would have said, well, that is a carved and sewn opinion of these people. They're just resolutely third rate. But I was dead wrong about Hilary Mantel. Who knows what the next book from one of these people will be? One of these people that I am comfortably relegating to the third tier. Who knows what they'll do? That was one of the joys of Wolf Hall, is that suddenly it made it feel like anybody could do that sort of thing. Great, fine by me. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're fine. Good. Harrison Recht says, hi, Steve. Who do you think is the best English prose writer of the 18th, 19th, 20th century each? And dare I say the 21st? Well, how am I supposed to answer that in a Q&A? Right? How am I supposed to do that? I can't, obviously, do that. For the 20th century, I could probably say Virginia Woolf, but it's obvious that there are a million candidates and a million caveats, so it's not really a Q&A kind of question. Although for the 21st century, the answer is, of course, me. Jenny Park says, hey, Steve and Frida. Number one, what did you think about the Meg movie? I thought it was a horrible missed opportunity. I really did. I thought at first, from the trailer, that it wasn't going to be. But it ends up being it ends up being boring. And I wasn't happy about most of the special effects either. There are a couple of standout scenes that did. The point that I'm trying to make here is that the Meg novels are absurd. Now let's not don't go canceling me to their author. I think in his sober moments he would probably admit they're absurd, right? You have a smile on your face the whole time. The novel is about a giant 60-foot albino killer shark from prehistoric era that survives in the Mariana Trench and then comes to the surface. That is inherently ridiculous. Okay, that's inherently absurd. And that adds the indispensable element of fun to the Meg novels that makes them such sweetmeat for me. It's why I love them so much. It's why I am, in a lot of the book-selling world, from when I was in bookstores, synonymous with the novel Meg. That's why I loved it. I didn't think it was Turgenev. I loved it because of that element of the absurd. And I really wanted the production, the movie production, to capture that. And there are a couple of scenes that maybe kind of sort of do, but no, it mostly goes for a heavy portent. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. The whole idea is silly. So you can't do that anymore. Like think for the movie Lake Placid. Well, no, that's not a really good example though. I mean, there are absurdist moments in Lake Placid, but it also falls under the weight of its own portentousness. I guess what I mean to say is that the Meg movie disappointed me because I wanted it to be fun, and it's many, many things, but it's not fun. And it should. That's the primary thing that it should be, right? I would never in a million years want a normal giant killer shark movie to be fun. I don't in a million years want them to be that. I want that sharkish goodness. I want it to be dead serious, as portentous as can be. Shark Night, for instance. Oh, what a movie. How disturbing a movie. But, and there have been a slew of them since then. I want that. That's what I want. I don't want that in a movie about a 60-foot prehistoric shark. And the tone was off in the movie. And number two, do you ever feel gleeful if an author looks scared that you're reviewing their book? Well, I don't often know what they're going to say ahead of time. I know that in little corners of the book reviewing world, novelists, let's stick to novelists, they really, really want a review by Sam Sachs in the Wall Street Journal. They really do, even though they know that usually it's only going to be 1/3. He usually does 3 books in one column. He is the best, most insightful critic of contemporary fiction working today. I would argue that he's the best and most insightful literary critic of contemporary fiction working in a very long time. And he never fails to be brilliant. Even when he's got very little to work with, he always manages to be brilliant. In a way, he writes the kind of review that authors will profit from. That, in addition to the readers, that authors will profit from it. I know a lot of authors who are hoping that their novel will get reviewed by him. And I know a couple of examples of novelists who are hoping, in a kind of weird masochistic way, the same thing from me. Sam and I have occasionally reviewed the same novels. Sometimes we like the same book, the same novel. Sometimes we review the same novel and we both like it. In which case, you read the two reviews side by side, you can see immediately how we review. There's nothing that will reveal it more clearly than an X-ray, than if two experienced reviewers are reviewing the same book and you just look at them side by side. You can see immediately what each one of them goes for and what each one of them does in a review. But often he will like a book that I don't like. And if I don't like a work of contemporary fiction, I don't treat it with the kid gloves that it gets in so many different places. There are so many publications that review these things and haul out all the usual book reviewing patter. Sam doesn't do that. Even when he doesn't like a book, he doesn't do it. And even when he does like a book, he doesn't deal with patter. But so many people do in places like Harper's or The Atlantic or whatever, to the point where you read 1,000 words, you have no idea what the reviewer thought of the book. You're just drowning in a sea of euphemisms. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. If you were, for instance, to go and find my review of the latest Sally Rooney, you would see you will not read a review like that anywhere else. And some authors know that. I don't review much fiction. Maybe that's a good thing. Let's see here. Faisal Hadi says, "Good afternoon, Steve. Are mafias still present nowadays? And if so, may you refer me to a book dealing with this subject?" Oh, they're very much still present. Yes, absolutely they are. I would recommend Michael Roth did a book called Global Organized Crime. Something like that. Something close to that. It had a boring title, but it's a big systematic study. So in this case, I might want it to have a boring title. It was Michael Roth was the author. It's not that old a book. I'd recommend that, absolutely. And there are also, start there. But yeah, organized mafias very much still exist. Yeah, they do. Maximus Stedich says, "Hey, Steve, what is stopping you from sporting a beard so as to accentuate your sexy influencer jawline?" Facial hair on men is ridiculous. All facial hair on men is inherently ridiculous. So when I get stubble or scruff, I get rid of it right away. Even in the rare examples of a man who can pull it off, a rare example of where a full beard on a man isn't ridiculous on its face, I never really understand it. It's inhumanly uncomfortable, and also takes a lot of care, gets awful messy. I don't usually make, as you might be able to tell from my videos, I don't usually make aesthetic decisions about myself. There's very little of me that does that. I don't think here's what my hair should look like. Here's how fetching a beard would look. I don't usually make decisions like that. So it would be just another thing to bother about. It would be easier for me. In some ways, it would be easier for me. I'm of course not going to go to a barber. I never understood that even before the pandemic. Going to let a stranger you've never met before hold a straight razor to your throat. I never understood that. Never will. But growing a beard even without a barber, if I trimmed it myself, would be a lot easier because I use razors. I have an electric razor, but it's up in Vermont, and I haven't bothered to replace it. So I use razors to shave, but I can neither feel the razor in my hand nor can I feel the blade on my skin. So it's a little bit tricky. but no, I'm not going to grow a beard except by accident. There will be days like today where I felt a little lazy and didn't do it. Let's see here. How are we doing for? Okay, we're fine. Bryces 1000 says, "Hello, Steve. I am reading the Bible after watching your Western Canon starter kit. I'm surprised by how many stories I know, but I find it a peculiar read." Okay, you're capitalizing the personal pronoun I, but you do not capitalize the word Bible. Could you tell me what is the deal with yeast? I am baffled most by this. Is yeast viewed as magical? Well, yeah, wouldn't you think it's magical? You have to understand the primitive societies that we're talking about here. We're talking about stone and wattle buildings. We're talking about baking and agriculture being 95% of every day for every person. The Old Testament, as Sam Harris points out in his letter to a Christian nation, the Old Testament is entirely preoccupied with exactly the things you would think it would be if it were purely and only a document of his time, with nothing like this divinely inspired business. It's entirely preoccupied with exactly what you'd think it would be, and never looks towards any of the ages that are coming, which, according to Christians today, the God who was inspiring it knew were coming. Yeah, you just have to. There's a lot of yeast. There's a lot of livestock and sacrifices and whatnot. Let's see here. Hello, Steve. Oh, I don't know. This might be a an importation error. Someone is saying, "Hello, Steve. This might be someone else. Sorry, I don't get your name. I don't think this is Brycey's 1000 anymore. I don't think I get the name of the person who's doing this." Hello, Steve. I was wondering about dogs' short lifespans. In less than 20 years, all the dogs that are alive right now won't be anymore, but their owners probably will. I've only ever had one dog, and she's 7 years old, so I don't know. My question is, knowing through experience that their life is relatively short, does it influence your bond with them in any way? Has the experience of mourning them affected your relationship with new dogs? It affects my bonds, yes, and not just with them. Not just with them at all. I throw myself into friendship. I throw myself into love. Except with people on mopeds. They can burn. but they don't ever do it. They can burn, but they don't ever burst into flame. How satisfying that would be if one of them did. But in relationships, in friendships, I throw myself into those things. Ask anybody who has been in any kind of relationship with me, whether it's a long-standing one or whether it's a booktuber who's come over here. I throw myself into those sorts of things, and I learned that from dogs. Because there's no time to waste. So, of course, it affects my relationship with them. There's no such thing as a drab or dull day. There's no such thing as a day I take for granted. There shouldn't be anyway. Not just with dogs, but with anybody. But I don't know what you meant by I've only ever had one dog and she's 7 years old, so I don't know. What don't you know? I'm not sure what you're saying. You don't know there. Your 7-year-old dog is going to die, definitely, in 7 more years, if you're lucky. Maybe 8 more years. So you should live every minute. Maximize as much as you can. Don't be callous. Don't be dumb about it. If your dog wants something, give it to her. If your dog wants to stay on a walk for 15 extra minutes, what's 15 extra minutes to you? If you're going to live to 80, give everything. Give them everything all the time. They're here for so short a time. I always want to tell this to people. I extend this to fanatical levels myself. I of course, say, don't train them. No restrictions. None of this don't get up on the furniture crap. Nothing like that. What on earth? What on earth? They're your slaves already. And you're imposing on them even more, and they're going to be gone in an eye blink of time, and your heart's going to break? What on earth? And I've had friends who said, over the years, who've said, well, yeah, but dogs do what you tell them to do. So it's easy for you to say that. You don't have to impose any of those rules because you can just tell them to knock it off, and they will. We need rules. You don't. You absolutely don't need rules. I watch people on the sidewalk when I'm walking the bean. They've trained their dog rigorously, mind control training, that when their dog so much as sees another dog, I've seen the dogs, they have been trained to look straight at their owner for a treat and completely ignore the existence of another dog. Not be friendly to the other dog, but completely ignore their own species. Completely ignore them because they've been trained that way for a treat. You do it. You do it. I want you to ignore all dogs. When you see a dog, you look at me. I will give you a treat if you successfully ignore them until they're out of sight. How warped is that? Good Lord. That's just... They're people. Okay? They're people just like you. They're not less than you. They're people just like you. So I would say maximize your time. Throw yourself at them. But then I say that about all relationships. You're all welcome here for Wine and Calzones. But you had another thing to say, right? I'll go on forever about dogs. We don't have that kind of time. On another note, you mentioned in one of your videos that your opinion on JFK's assassination after much research was that Lee Harvey Oswald got lucky. What are your thoughts on the Warren Commission and on Jim Garrison's On the Trail of the Assassins? Garrison's book is funny. It's unintentionally funny. And I've read the Warren Commission. I've read every word of it, not just the one-volume Pressy that was put out for bookstores. I've read all of it. And it can be maddening. It's the commission was the reports, the full 21 volumes or whatever of any kind of commission like that, whether it's Warren Commission or 9/11 or Benghazi. If you read all the separate volumes, you're of course going to see things that the committee members missed because it's such a massive information. And I, like everybody else, I have criticisms of the Warren Commission. An old friend of mine spent half of his life criticizing the Warren Commission. He was outraged when he read it at how much was missing, and how many glaring omissions there are, how many people were in Dealey Plaza who were never called before the commission, and whose testimony given elsewhere contradicts a lot of what's in the Warren Commission. Who's right, who's wrong. I think that it was necessary, and the follow-up committee, years later was also necessary, but yeah, other research elsewhere, Garrison et al., has not shaken my belief that Lee Harvey Oswald got off some lucky shots. It's the one explanation that makes the most sense. It's the one explanation that accounts for the most physical details. And it's also the one explanation that, I was going to say Americans, but people just in general don't want to accept. It goes so much against human nature to say that something of such importance came down to random chance. That's where conspiracy theories are born, is that humans find that completely unpalatable. I understand that, but anyway. Also, have you watched Cobra Kai? I feel like it's safe to ask, considering it's a TV show, not a book. I have not. I've heard only good things about it, but I've never watched it. Let's see here. Isaiah Armstrong says, "Hello, Steve and Bean. A few questions for you. What is it like being best friends with a dog?" What are these dog questions? This is wonderful, but it's not going to help us keep these videos down to a manageable number. What are the advantages of being friends with a dog rather than being friends with a human? Dogs live entirely in the present. It's great being friends with a dog. To answer your first question, it's absolutely great. They live entirely in the present. A healthy dog, a happy dog. Quite a few of them are neurotic messes, either from incorrect breeding or a lot of times from incorrect treatment by their human owners. The human owners don't get off at all here. Not completely. I see infinite numbers of these relationships. A lot of them are really good, but some of them are obviously not. A happy, healthy dog lives only in the present. That is tremendously, tremendously refreshing. In a world beset by worries, in a world beset by thinking about the future, even though that does no good, worrying about the future, even though that does no good, spending time with a dog is like a cool, cleansing bath, because they don't do that. They just don't do that. They're entirely in the present. The thing we can all learn a little bit more about doing. It's wonderful. Absolutely cleansing. Let's see here. Were you ever devoutly religious? Not culturally, but actually believing in a God with a certain theological viewpoint? If so, why do you no longer believe? Well, I was raised Catholic, and that they don't take backsliders. But it quickly went away when I realized that it's the only species on Earth that does this. And by this I mean religion, just the whole apparatus of religion, regardless of what the religion is. The only species on Earth that does this is the only species on Earth that can. That's inherently suspect. I don't know why that doesn't raise red flags for everybody. That bothered me first when I realized I was spending lots and lots of time with dogs. I was spending lots and lots of time with pigs. I was realizing that they don't worship. They don't believe in things that are not real, that they cannot see or experience. They don't believe in such things. Now, a dog and a pig, they don't have the forebrain necessary to comprehend the descriptions of things that they can't see, but that are nonetheless demonstrably real. X-rays, for instance, or distant stars, or something like that. There's tons and tons and tons of empirical proof for those things. You can't see them, but your brain allows you to comprehend that proof and comprehend that it's testable and that it's real. And that followed naturally from the first. The first was, nobody else does this. It's just humans that do this. It looks like a human thing. And all the gods and goddesses and goblins and saints and whatnot are all human. Even the ones that have animal faces are all human. They're all go out of their way to be human. There's no such thing. These beings, if they were real, would be the definition of alien. And they're not. They're absolutely not. They're like the gods and goddesses on Mount Olympus. They're completely human. They just can kill you. So that came first. But then the natural next step was, well, all right, nobody else does this. Maybe it's because they don't have this huge forebrain, although some animals do. So if that's the case, well, then this should all rest on demonstration, right? You tell me that there's a magnetic field. I can't see it, but you can definitely demonstrate it to me in 5 or 6 different ways. And the demonstrations will be completely consistent all around the world. You can get someone to do a demonstration without even telling them what you're getting them to do. It'll identically mimic yours. No community necessary, no conversion necessary, no outreach, no eschatology, no nothing like that. They'll just duplicate what you did, and it'll be the same. Knowing that, I thought, well, all right, these people on one side are making claims for unseen things and then showing me the proof of them. I still can't see the X-ray spectrum, but I now know that it exists. You can show that it works. Okay, this other group is also making claims for something that's unseen, something that I can't see, and that they can't see. Where is their proof? Where is the similar thing? Where is the similar proof on the other side of that? And there isn't any. Not a stitch of it of any kind, and there never has been. So for anybody. Not just for Christianity, but for any religion. There never has been at all. So it became pretty simple at that point. But anyway, shouldn't boil down to proof anyway. But it did. Let's see here. And Isaiah Armstrong has, a fun last question. How do you explain the Trinity? The Holy Trinity. The great explanation in Christianity is that it is ineffable. The great explanation of the Trinity in Christianity is exactly what I just said. That if these goblins were real, they would be completely alien. Not just not like us, but not comprehensible by us. And the Trinity is a great example of that. The Trinity is something that is two opposite things at the same time. And its ineffability is the best Christian explanation for it. It's not an explanation. It's the best Christian accounting of it. That this is just beyond you. That's what the Trinity is. That's how you explain it, is that it's just beyond you. There's not enough of that in Christianity, in my opinion. When a Christian tells me, I am a Christian, it fills my life with warmth and a sense of purpose, because this is what I believe, because this is what it feels like to me. I feel that on the inside. And not only can I not prove it to you, I'm not interested in proving it to you. I know that it's real. I feel it myself. I love listening to Christians like that, and I have seen it change lives. I've seen that kind of faith change lives. I've seen those Christians and Muslims and whoever go on and do things that I honestly do believe. I honestly do believe them when they say that they couldn't have done those things without that faith. I honestly believe that. That is honestly true. I believe that's real. I get Christians like that, and they make my day. I absolutely love them. They're close friends of mine. We can talk endlessly. They're sitting there right in the room over wine and calzones. They know perfectly well that the guy on the other side of the conversation doesn't believe a word of what they believe. But the conversation is fantastic because that's all they're doing. I get a lot of other Christians. I'm sure you do too. I hope you're not one of them. I get a lot of Christians on the other side of that who say, this isn't just that it fills me. It's also obviously real. It's obviously reality. They make fact claims left, right, and center. None of the fact claims hold up. None of the fact claims are true. They shouldn't be true. They don't have to be true. But I cannot stand that. That I cannot stand. When you say to me, my faith fills me and gives me purpose and a sense of being, then I want to hear all about it. And I'm endlessly happy for you. When you tell me my faith is real because I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, or because evolution is wrong, or because you look at the trees or whatever, that drives me insane. There is no evidence on that side of the aisle. Obviously, there is not. There never has been. Not even for the unnamed gods that the Neanderthals worshipped. There never has been. It's the other kind I like. But what did that rant cause? Oh, these are simple, fun questions. We're going to wrap this up. We're ending every block here with a rant. We'll wrap this up and go on to part 3.